Now one interesting thing is that all of this stuff is actually inside. And they even managed to fit 2 reels, or 2 spools of filament in there. Wow, they've changed the design a little bit. One thing I want to point out is that the FlashForge Creator Pro takes the filament that has the bigger hole in the spool. Some of them have a smaller hole. We ran into that issue at the lab actually. So what we did was, aside from having these, we also drilled holes in the back of this, which this seems to have been cheapified a little bit. It was a bit tougher before, so that's unfortunate. But they have to bring the price down somehow. And so we just had a bolt coming out with the big washer on the end, and so we would bolt the things on there. But I personally kind of like getting the right size for the machine, because as it is now, there's not really much of a price difference. You want to make sure you don't harm this, because this is the extruder head and stuff like that. Oh, weird. They really changed the design. So on the one that we had, I'm pretty sure the door was different. But we also had issues of the door coming off. Now, I do worry about this though, because this is a plexiglass or whatever. I fear that these will snap here and they won't have much strength. So I think this might not last very long. Whenever you're moving the motors in here by pushing it, make sure to push it really slowly, because with these stepper motors or whatever, they have a tendency to generate electricity. And so if you yank it over really fast, then that can actually feed electricity into the circuits and fry your 3D printer. I would hope that they would have circuitry against that. You don't want to take the chance. On one of the FlashForges I had, if you moved the motors really fast, the front screen would actually light up because you were powering it. Oh, look at that, it still works. So there obviously isn't much in the way of protection between those. Like, this is an instance where you have to be very careful, because like if you just push down on this, then you might fry the electronics. So you have to go down very slowly. Now unfortunately, it seems like the quality has gone down quite a bit, although the prices have gone down a bit also, because I believe back in 2015 this cost around $1,400 or $1,600, but now it's only around $800. I accidentally knocked this piece and that shattered off, so it's not super needed though, so I mean, it's not too important, but that's a shame. So you get a power cord and a USB cable. I don't really recommend the USB cable because it seemed to have more issues than necessary. So it doesn't really make much sense to use it. It's better just to put an SD card in there. And I believe the SD card should come with the software. Also, if you plan on using this a lot, I do recommend getting new fans, because I had the issue one time where the fans actually came, well, they wore out because they're really cheap fans. Oh, this is this one. There's an odd pin there now, which is better because before they didn't have a very good linking mechanism, but it seems to be very hard to get it on there. There we go. It would be interesting to see how the design of the FlashForge Creator Pro, or whatever it is, has changed over the years, because like I think I remember this piece looking different and stuff like that. Actually, almost all of it looks a little bit different. But I haven't been doing 3D printing for a year now. I can't believe it. It's been a year since I was at Apple. A year since I left Apple, I mean. Okay, so this goes here. I get it now. Because before I only noticed this after I put the nozzles on. So I guess that goes on last then, which it honestly makes sense. And let's see what our mystery colors are, because you get 2 randomly selected colors. You get red. And we get white. It's pretty nice. And they're both ABS, so that'll be very useful for me. And by the way, this is really nice. I like this improvement. So, back in 2015 and 2016, I believe that you had to piece this together. This, of course, is the top piece here. Oh, it even, like, snaps in. Oh, this is awesome. Yeah, so the older design had a, basically like a laser cut lid, and so you had to screw it together, and it was just kind of a pain in the butt, and we never ended up really using it that much. But we would have used this if this was the case. I don't know how I feel about having to flex this, but I mean, I guess it works. Now, I probably shouldn't have done that just then, but what we have here is this little tube will guide the filament, so we stick that in there. And now you want this to come down like this. And then this filament will be led up in through this tube until it reaches the little motor. Then the other one will go over here, because this, after all, is a dual extrusion one. That's unfortunate. Looks like this one is not compatible. It's too thick, so the little latches can't grab a hold of it. But it's not too bad. It'll still work. It won't be as nice. So now what we want to do is we want to go down to preheat. I'm going to start, actually, we don't need to have the platform on. Okay, there we go. So we're going to preheat the left and right extrusion heads, and then we are going to feed the plastic into it. Alright, these are preheated well enough. So now we can go to Utilities, Filament Loading. So now the SD card actually goes on the inside, right there. And I'm just going to print something that I used to use. Oh. I'm just going to print something I used to use, Renoa Test 1 fixed. It's an old calibration one that I used to use. So right now it's heating up the filament, or it's heating up the nozzles, and in about 10 minutes or so it should start printing. I forgot to make the speed faster. Normally this can go a little bit faster. It's a bit slow, but oh well. It is kind of helpful how all the software comes on the SD card with it, although it's kind of funny, I'm actually not that fluent with using Windows for 3D printing, because I just always use Mac for it. And so I believe Pleasant 3D is a program that doesn't work on Windows. For some reason, Replicator G is being really slow, really sluggish on my laptop. If you use Macintosh, I recommend getting Pleasant 3D. It helps you visualize the actual G code itself. You can like look through the layers and whatnot. It's really cool. It's really helpful. I wish it worked on PC. I'm not going to talk too much about the software side of things, but I can do another video on that if you guys would like me to talk about how to slice 3D models and whatnot. Now if you're going to be doing much 3D printing, I recommend getting a little fingernail polish bottle and filling it with some acetone. Yeah, it kind of sucks by itself. That's why we put this in there. Just taking some blue filament and sticking that in there. I'll save all this red stuff and I'll make another batch of red glue later on, but I plan to use some blue here in a bit, so I'm just gonna make this one blue. Not counting, it was already blue and I forgot to rinse too much out. So yeah, this is the calibration model that I made. It's my character from Final Fantasy XIV on a base. Oh, I forgot to add this back. With a little spiral and just a couple of little things just to give some definition. I might have some of the original ones that I printed out there, but it's just the same thing. Although I think the printer I had out there was a bit better quality, just because I think I need to level the platform. That's the same character but printed a bit bigger and kind of broken in a couple places. But oh well. Now as for leveling the build platform, you go down to Utilities, Level Build Plate. So now what you do is you just grab a thin piece of paper. In this instance we take a piece of a magazine. Just stick it underneath there. Now move this over here. Underneath the build platform there are 3 screws. So I adjust this one until I feel it pulling on the... Okay, it's a little hard. So you want it to do it where the distance between the nozzle and the plate is just enough to where you can feel a little bit of tension on the paper. It's a little bit rough. I'm going to loosen it up a little bit. Like that. Okay, and that one was a bit loose, so we tighten it up. And now it should be even pretty much everywhere. Yeah, that's pretty good. A little bit of friction on the page and that's all you need. Now, as for this platform, some people use Kapton tape. They just have a big sheet of Kapton, I believe it's called, and we tried that. It was a huge fail. It was just nothing but frustration. So I recommend just going with the plate, the sticker that they have, because this peels off, and with the FlashForge you get several more of these, and I think they're pretty cheap too, so you don't have to worry too much about them. But these seem to be good for at least 100 or so prints, just as long as you don't eat it up with your knife whenever you try to get the prints off, because some prints I was doing were pretty big and they had a big flat surface. So something like that, maybe, actually I guess maybe that'd be good to have a raft for something like that. Raft is whenever the 3D printer, or actually more accurately the software that you use to slice, moves the 3D model up, and underneath it prints like a grid pattern, so you can keep the thing up off the print bed, but also I think it helps it to remove it. However, I like to do it without any supports and without a raft. So that's actually the best way to do it, is if you can make it to where you don't have to have any supports to help hold up the print, you can make the fastest print and also waste less material, because effectively all of this support is just wasted material that is only needed during the actual print. And some things, if you organize them in a certain way, they'll actually work fine. And other ones you can actually break in half. For instance, with this, the feet are actually a separate piece, which I didn't use. I just used hot glue because I had that's all I had on hand at the time. But I'll rip this apart and put it back together with acetone. But you can print things in multiple pieces. Like I printed that like that, and then that, and then the head was separate. I had some issues with the head. And then you can glue it together later with acetone. So you can cut things apart pretty easily, and you can get quite a bit out of a 3D printer. Like for instance, I'm going to be printing a big castle type thing from Final Fantasy called the mizzenmast, and I want to do it really big, so I'm going to do that in sections, and then I'll glue that together with acetone afterwards, and it should make a nice big 3D model of the mizzenmast. And that is pretty much it. I think that's pretty much all I need to get it running, and I think that's all you need to get it running. Now, I might make another video just talking about how to export, or how to get the .x3g file to work with the 3D printer, and how to slice and whatnot, and I might do that on my 3D modeling channel, but I might do it on here. It's all up to you guys. Please let me know what you think, and hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you very much for watching. See ya.